the sorry story, really, the unfortunate story of Chelsea's Romeo Lavia, but he's just really not had the chance at Chelsea to make that impact as a player. Cole Palmer nipped into the press box, had some chicken and potatoes before kick-off. The most important thing about any stadium is the food on offer, and Chelsea do put out a very nice spread. Hello and welcome to Sun Sports Chelsea YouTube channel for this week's edition of the Chelsea Files, where we take you behind the scenes at Stamford Bridge, their common training ground, and anywhere in the world that Chelsea head to. I'm Jack Rosser, one of the Chelsea reporters here at the Sun. And leading the Chelsea Files this week is the sorry story, really, the unfortunate story of Chelsea's Romeo Lavia, and the excitement, I suppose, that was there early on when they brought him in from Southampton for north of £50 million. They tried to do it a year earlier. We've got the story leading the files this week that after a game in August 2022, just weeks after the Belgian midfielder had joined Southampton from Manchester City, Chelsea headed down to St Mary's Stadium in Southampton. They lost 2-1 after Romeo Lavia scored an equaliser just after Raheem Sterling. We'll come on to him in a bit. Raheem Sterling scored the opener for Chelsea. Lavia scored a fantastic goal from outside the box. Chelsea had already sort of been interested, looking around and maybe profiling Lavia as a target. He did so well against them that day that a bid went in not long after that game to try and bring him from Southampton to Stamford Bridge just weeks after he'd moved from Manchester to the South Coast. They finally got him a year later after Southampton were relegated, but it's not quite gone to plan since then, and we've had another injury blow in the last couple of weeks. He makes such a difference when he's on the pitch, Lavia. He reads the game incredibly well for somebody so young. He's a leader on the pitch, knows where to go, gets the ball forward quickly, but he's just really not had the chance at Chelsea to make that impact as a player. He's only played 30 games for the Blues, and he's not even managed 90 minutes for them since. He's spoken to us before, spoke to me on tour a couple of years ago about keeping fit, being fit. They're being careful with his management going forwards and trying to bring him back carefully, but he's now out for another month after that quad injury, 5 minutes into the Champions League game at Qarabağ last week. But we've got some more details just about how excited Chelsea are by this talent. That Southampton game, obviously the directors are there. They travelled down to St Mary's, saw him, and were so excited by what they saw. Completely encapsulated by him and have been addicted to him since then, really, obviously bringing him in. And we've just not had the chance to see that talent shine at Chelsea yet. They're putting him on a similar sort of recovery regime to Reece James. Enzo Maresca said recently that he's probably a year behind where the captain is, the Chelsea captain, Reece James. He's had all of his hamstring and injury issues in the past and is now back. Maresca said capable now of playing 3 games in a week, which he hasn't been for such a long time. But the Lavia process is much more difficult, and it also puts more weight on players like Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, who are already playing with niggling injuries, playing through the pain, and it just reduces the cover, especially because Dario Oswego, also that other new signing, is out injured. So Chelsea scratching their heads, trying to find a solution, but it's a player they're immensely excited about and have always been very excited about since that day at St Mary's in August 2022. The second story in the Chelsea Files this week, similar to Lavia getting injured in Baku, comes from Azerbaijan. And it's a difficult one in terms of the Chelsea youth team, the UEFA Youth League. Every time the men's team play, whether it's Bayern Munich, Benfica, Qarabağ, they will go and play the youth side in the UEFA Youth League of whoever the men's first team are play earlier in the same day of the senior team. And the Chelsea youth team travelled out to Azerbaijan, flew out to Baku just as the first team did, and got a fantastic victory, a 5-0 win. Jesse Derry shining, somebody that Chelsea nicked from Crystal Palace not too long ago, but it was all overshadowed by a horrendous racism incident. There were reports after the game and during the game, even with the players speaking to the officials and the coaches, that after Sol Gordon's opening goal, there were monkey noises coming from the stands, allegedly, and it's now something that UEFA have exclusively confirmed to the Chelsea Files that they are looking into. This is something they will do for any incidents across any level of their games. They look into incidents in the stands, on the pitch, if somebody's throwing missiles, but they have a very regimented routine and process to go through when it comes to racism incidents. As I said, the players went over and spoke to the officials, the coaches. It's then up to them whether they continue the game or not. They did. They played on. They went on to win 5-0. but it's now something that Chelsea are supporting the youth team with. They put out a very strongly worded statement at the time accusing this singular Qarabag fan of making those gestures and those noises towards the Chelsea players, something that's awful to experience at any level, but especially at that youth league level when you're trying to make your way in the game and having to face up to incidents like these. UEFA are investigating. Chelsea files will of course keep an eye on how this plays out. Chelsea themselves are supporting the players. They put out a very strongly worded statement at the time, and in fairness to them, Qarabag, the Azerbaijani side, are appalled by what happened and have made that fairly clear as well. But it's something that we will keep monitoring here on Chelsea Files in the coming weeks. And finally, on this week's Chelsea Files, Cole Palmer is obviously still absent and unable to make an impact for Enzo Maresca's first team, but we do still see him around Stamford Bridge. He sits just in front of the press box in front of us. You've got Enzo Maresca and his staff right in the front row of the dugout. Behind them, the substitutes, of course, and then sat behind them just before the dugout club where all those rich fans go and have a seat right in the thick of the action. You have the players who are part of the first team squad but can't be part of the squad on that day, whether that's injury or suspension or whatever. We've had a few suspended players in recent weeks sitting there with all the red cards Chelsea have been racking up. But Cole Palmer has been sat there for a few weeks while he manages that groin injury and hopes to recover for Arsenal and Barcelona just after the international break. But we still see him about the place, and he even nipped into the press room on Saturday ahead of the Wolves game to enjoy some of Stamford Bridge's famous press food for us journalists that go in there. Any journalist, any football journalist will tell you the most important thing about any stadium is the food on offer, and Chelsea do put out a very nice spread. Whatever is going on at the club, they still feed us very well, and that's the important stuff. Cole Palmer nipped into the press box, had some chicken and potatoes before kick-off, filled himself up and headed back out to watch the game. It's not the first time we've seen him in there. He nipped in for a bit of pudding while he was unavailable last season. And it's not rare to see a player in that press room at Stamford Bridge. It comes just off the tunnel behind the dugout. Cole Palmer, we've seen him in there. We've seen plenty of players, whether they're in the squad or not, nipping out after the game just before Enzo Maresca comes in to do his post-match press conference. It's a quick way out for them before they head off away to home or to meet some friends. And clearly, as all the journalists will tell you, Chelsea's food is good, so good that the players even enjoy it themselves. That's all for the Chelsea Files this week. We will keep you across anything going on at Stamford Bridge, on the Sun website, in the paper, and here on the Chelsea Sun Sport YouTube channel.